Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Ontario's 40,000 chartered accountants and CA students, I'm pleased to welcome to the stage Premier Dalton McGuinty and Don Newman. Gentlemen.
Thanks, appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you. Why don't you sit over there?
Okay. Other side.
Other side.
Okay.
Why don't you sit over there?
This is the middle.
Well, you are a Liberal.
I set him up.
Premier, it's good to see you. Thank you for being here. I say on behalf of the room. I want to say to Rob, thank you for the introduction. I know you're used to those kind of introductions, and I hope I'm not in any way being a precursor of what awaits you sometime down the road. I'm sure in your case it won't, but that was a very nice introduction for me, and it reminded me that 2 weeks ago I was in Winnipeg, and a person introduced me to speak, and they said, well, you sort of know who you think you know him anyway, you know he looks like. Please welcome to our microphone the man who used to be Don Newman. So, Rob, thank you very much. Premier, let me ask you first, because listening to Gordon Nixon today and his panel and the Jobs and Prosperity Council, and then listening to Minister Duguid, and I've heard you say it before, and Bob Chiarelli and Dwight Duncan, all your ministers, the work you've done over the last years that you've been in office in terms of taxes and the HST, in terms of what you've done in education, in terms of the kind of programs you put in place, that you've put Ontario in a place to be the competitive province that we all want it to be. And the Jobs and Prosperity Council, is that really not as much a report to the government as it is to the private sector? And you put the ball on the goal line, now they've got to pick it up and run it in. Because when we heard Gord talking today, a lot of the things he said, well, you know, industry's got to do this. They didn't talk too much about what government had to do.
Right. Well, it's a report to all of us. I want to take the opportunity to thank Gord and everybody who's been working so hard and well on the council. And we're looking very much forward to receiving those recommendations. But what we've done in government is set the table, or maybe to put it another way, we've constructed a platform from which we can together leap forward with optimism and commitment into the future. I mean, take a look at Brad has access through government supports for business to about $1.3 billion in direct supports. We have a $650 billion economy. Our economic influence in relation to the size of the economy is 0.2%. So the money that we provide to support business activity in a direct sense is 2/1000ths of the size of the economy. So you might say, from that perspective, our influence is rather modest when it comes to the economy itself. But on the other hand, we've got the macro levers, the fundamentals, exactly where they need to be. There's always more work to be done. Taxes are down dramatically. The marginal effective tax rate in Ontario has been cut in half. It's gone from about 33% to 16%. Marginal effective tax rate is essentially a term that describes all-in taxation. So we've gone to 16% in Ontario. In the US, it's 35%. In the EU, it's 20%. We've created 350,000 jobs since the recession. That's 48% of all new jobs created in Canada. That represents all the jobs we lost and 34% more. So we've gained 134% of the jobs that we have lost. In the US, 49%. The UK, about 100%. Germany, that powerhouse in the European Union, about 100%. Ontario, again, 138%. So we've done a lot to make sure we've got the fundamentals right. We've talked a lot about education. There are all kinds of new and exciting opportunities that, if you want, we can get into that will tell us where we need to go next as a business. But the bottom line is, for us to take the next leap forward, we need to do it together. So government has a role to play, but so does business, so does academia, so does labor, so do the NGOs. If we're going to be at our best, I'll give you one little example. I visited one city a couple of trade missions ago to China. One city, Chongqing, 34 million people. One city. Right? We're 13 million in Ontario. If we really are going to assert ourselves in a highly competitive global economy and bring our very best to that, we need to be together. So as Brad mentioned a moment ago, what I sense happening is an alignment, a growing consensus, that we need a larger plan. We need to harness the power of shared purpose. We're all going to build a stronger economy. And shared responsibility. We are all going to assume our respective role when it comes to building that stronger economy.
Well, I want to stay with your analogy of setting the table, because you get the sense, listening to the jobs and prosperity people, that Ontario business particularly has to sit down and eat, that you may have put the meal on the table and you've got the knife and fork there, but they're not eating enough, and that's one of the problems in creating more jobs and more innovation in our province.
I'm going to switch from eating to horse racing.
Isn't that a little risky?
Well, you know...
The record will show you made the change.
But there's an old expression, different horses for different courses. Right? We're on a different course. So the first horse that we rode served us very well. And it helped us build a strong economy, create great jobs, help us support great public services, and ensure that we all enjoy a great standard of living. What was that horse? That was the low-dollar, strong U.S. economy horse. We've got to get off that horse now and put that one out to pasture. It's earned a rest. What's the new horse all about? It's about high productivity and expanded global trade. That's where we need to go. Let me give you a specific example. And business has got to run with this stuff. We've cut the taxes, we're building infrastructure, we give them a great, highly competitive workforce. We continue to support good quality, publicly funded health care. It doesn't come out of business cost in any direct sense. But business has now got to take the next step. Let's talk exports. I'll be leading in my 4th trade mission to China in January. This time we're going to focus on the agri-food business. We've got the 3rd largest agri-food cluster in all of North America here in Ontario. You may recall a few years ago in China, there was a scandal associated with the quality of infant formula. Infant formula over there was being spiked with melamine. What that does is it gives you a false, higher reading in terms of the protein content in milk. So if you're watering down your milk and you want to have a higher protein reading, you spike it with melamine. Bottom line, 300,000 babies got sick and many died. We know that. Now combine that concern, a loss of confidence in the Chinese regulatory effectiveness, with the fact that every year 10 million Chinese migrate. It's the biggest mass migration in the history of humanity. Every year 10 million Chinese migrate from the rural parts of China, farms predominantly, into cities. And when they get there, they spend 4 times as much per capita on food. So last year, kind of quietly, our food exports to China went up by close to 50%. We've got a new business just starting up in the GTA now, which is going to be shipping 36,000 tons annually of Canadian infant formula to China. So when the Chinese think of Canada, they think clean air, clean water, forest, healthy people, healthy food. So we've got a wonderful opportunity. Now let me bring it up to the macro level. Here in Ontario, fewer than 3% of our exports are going to the fast-growing economies. Brazil, Russia, India, China. More than 90% are going to the slow-growing economies. Think US and EU. So we'll do what we can. We will lead trade missions. We will do what we can to find ways to open up those markets. But we've got to get more businesses, especially smaller and medium-sized businesses, to reach out a little bit further. If I can, I just want to give you one example, if we could throw that up on the screen, of a company I just visited a couple of days ago, Gray Tools. I think we've got a slide up there. And
there it is, right there.
Yeah. So Gray Tools is kind of a fascinating company. They were founded 100 years ago, in 1912. What they do is they manufacture industrial quality hand tools. In 1912, they were the only business in Canada to do this. In 2012, they're the only business in Canada to do this. So one of the big questions is, well, hang on a second, they're in manufacturing, so they gave me this ratchet. This is the smallest tool that they make. They make tools that the guys in Ontario Hydro would use, the tools that they use at the oil rigs, for example. And they gave me, I said, so why have you guys been around for 100 years? And this is what they've done. I thought it was kind of interesting. Through many challenges, the company has changed its business strategies, improved its operating processes, invested in new technologies, and opened new markets. And here, it seems to me, is the recipe for success in this economy. This company has emerged more innovative, more technologically advanced, more service-intensive, more globally networked, and more able to take advantage of new opportunities for growth. They go on to say, the competitive edge of Gray Tools is its flexibility, its ability to respond rapidly to changing customer demands, and its commitment to add value with its problem-solving expertise. Final point they make. Our business is no longer limited to just manufacturing products. We go further. We find job-specific solutions that are suited to customer needs. So that's a great recipe for success. This is a great example of an Ontario manufacturer that's been around for 100 years. They have found their way in the new economy, putting a heavy emphasis on new technology, innovation, and going global. And the other thing I noticed in walking around the plant is that today they count a lot more on their individual employees to do more than just produce the tools. This guy is going to do more than just produce that wrench. He's now being asked, do you know of any better ways to produce that wrench? Is there a tool, do you think, that we're not making today that we might be able to make? And by the way, every tool they make is guaranteed for life. They no longer make all their tools. They now outsource some of the manufacture of these tools as well. But again, if you want to put the Gray name on it, it better be top quality.
So it's your view that there are, if I could call them, traditional manufacturing jobs that can be either extended in Ontario or resuscitated in Ontario, and that as we export to these emerging markets, it won't be just agri-food. I mean, agri-foods is important and it's a value added to agriculture, but it is still something that's kind of a resource in that we grow it, and that the provinces that are doing better than us exporting to the markets of the fast-growing areas are basically either digging it out of the ground or pumping it out of a mine. So it's not really manufacturing in the way our economy is structured. But you think that traditional manufacturing can still have a role and can export into these markets?
Absolutely. Don't undersell us either, Don, when it comes to resource-based industries. We have the biggest mining sector
in
North America.
No, and I didn't want to leave that impression.
No.
But by and large, that's what it is,
yes.
right?
Yes. So we have to bring more value added, more investment in machinery and equipment, especially information and communication technology, more investment in R&D, more investment in ongoing training of our workers. And I've got another example of the power of innovation, which I want to throw up here on a slide to give you a sense. This is another exciting business. It's called Cosmetic Transformations. And I'm going to take you back 500 years. There was an interesting competition back then between a guy by the name of Leonardo da Vinci, another guy by the name of Titian, T-I-T-I-A-N, Belcelli. They were both artists. Da Vinci did more than that. But one of the things that Da Vinci couldn't figure out is how this guy Titian could do skin so much better in his portraits. Skin, when it's best replicated by an artist, has a certain translucent, luminescent character to it. Da Vinci couldn't capture that. So it turns out that what this guy Titian did was he actually took individual colors and mixed them with egg whites and linseed oil. And it made for a better portrait. Now, let's fast forward to Canada in 2012. There's a young woman who grows up in Calgary. She does her undergrad there. She gets a scholarship and she goes to Oxford. She studies art history. She learns about this rivalry between Da Vinci and Titian. She learns about the special emulsion that was developed by Titian to develop this luminescent character to skin. She's afflicted by cancer. She's treated. She is not satisfied with the treatment or the products used. She develops a business. It's growing this year by 600%. Her product is available in 50 countries so far. She took the approach developed by Titian, and she's now become a medical tattooist, and she's inserting the pigment in an emulsion which is replicating real skin. So here's an example of some of the work that she has done. She's located in Peterborough. She's selling to 50 countries. She's just starting in the service sector. So it's a great example of innovation. And I thought it's a great story of how a competition 500 years ago, right? Because when she told her dad, by the way, that she's going into tattooing, he said, are you going to join a circus or something? Right? So it's just, and this brings me to something else, if you don't mind if I run away a little bit. We've done a great job in our schools, right? We've got the fundamentals right. Numeracy and literacy. The issue is, how do I, if you're 4, how do I foster something that I need in you? I need you to be curious. Right? I know if I give you 30 books to read, you're going to be better at reading than if I give you 2 books. But how do I make you more curious? How do I make you more persistent? How do I ensure that you can persevere in the face of adversity? How do I ensure that you have more self-confidence? How do I ensure that you have more self-control? This is the next step that we're going to be taking in Ontario education, building character traits that help foster a culture of entrepreneurialism. Every year in Ontario, we graduate an army of 100,000 graduates. If we could just get a few more, a small percentage to ask, who am I going to hire? As opposed to, who's going to hire me? And if we put in place a necessary environment to foster that entrepreneurialism, to ensure that the mentorship is there, that there's a stronger connection between what's happening in the workplace and what's happening in our universities and our colleges and in our high schools, to make sure that the venture capital is there. Then we can spend a little less time trying to secure macro investments. Now today, when Brad and I try to secure investments, I'm not just competing against our Georgia here. We're competing against that Georgia over there. The world has really become much more competitive. But if we were to allow 1,000 flowers to bloom in Ontario, harnessing the innovative capacity of young people and putting in place an environment, a constellation, if you will, of supports, we'll be in great shape.
So is that one part of how we're going to look at education, which is entrepreneurs? But also, we've heard discussion this morning again about the lack of people who can do the skilled trades, and not probably what we traditionally think of skilled trades, but we were in school, but really sophisticated skilled trades,
right,
that are going to, I guess, work in these companies that the entrepreneurs are going to create.
Right.
So there's basically the entrepreneurs to create the companies, but also the people that have to work in them, and they have to be trained differently too.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we have to do as a prerequisite to that is we've got to get mums and dads and high school teachers to begin to attach greater value and to celebrate skilled trades and the economic opportunities to be found there. I'll tell you a little story. I had a guy come over and a plumber fixed my toilet. So I chatted him up. He had an accent. I thought he might have been East European. He said, so what were you doing over there? He says, well, I was an engineer. So I thought, oh, well, I was kind of into it. Well, that's too bad. And he said, wait a minute now. He said, you can't believe the money I'm making. So, we just need to grow alive to the opportunities to be found in the skilled trades. We're developing a college. It was one of the impetuses behind the College of Trades that we're getting up and running in Ontario. No other province has this. So we've got a college for architects and doctors and accountants and engineers and teachers and nurses, but we didn't have a college, a self-regulatory body for the trades. So in part, the reason I created the college was to elevate the status of college, of the trades in Ontario, so that Ontarians become alive to the notion that this is real, it's viable, and there are great job opportunities to be had there.
And in the period of time, I mean, even if you take people when they're 10, not 4, there's a lack of venture capital, and there seems to be a lack of entrepreneurial spirit. I think probably in Canada, maybe not so much in the oil patch, but in Canada generally, and in our province probably in particular, since we're such a big part of the country. What do we do about that in the shorter term?
Well, again, you're talking about enhancing the entrepreneurial culture, which is to be found in Ontario. I think, if you're ever looking for a reason to be hopeful, look to the younger generation. And I think some of the things that we've got to do, for example, is that if you take a look at our high schools have a university bias. All the teachers are university educated. The administration, they are university educated. We don't have enough college people in there. We don't have enough trade people in there. We don't have enough connection with the business world in there. So starting in the elementary school, I think we need to take a look at developing what they call higher order skills. Let me give you an example of some of the challenges that we face today in our schools. So we'll say to young people, you're going to have an exam, you're going to have a test. You can't use technology, and you can't talk to your colleagues. Well, I can tell you one of the first things I say to somebody who wants to work my senior staff is, you better use technology, and you better talk to your colleagues, right? So we're going to have to find a way to bridge that divide that exists between the way we've been teaching our kids and the demands of both society and our workplace. But I am convinced that there are ways to unleash the creative potential and the innovative capacity of young people. I think that it starts to a large extent in our schools.
But are you concerned there's a gap between when those people graduate and get out and work, and the rest of us are all here now and waiting to see how the economy is going to recover? And why do you think it is that maybe it's just there aren't enough resources, but venture capital doesn't seem to be chasing ideas even on Bay Street, the way you see venture capital chasing ideas certainly in the United States?
Well, a few things. First of all, I know there's been some discussion about money that is lying dormant.
Yeah, dead money. Yeah.
Dead money, yeah. I'm not sure I would embrace that terminology.
No.
But I think it would be, it's okay for the investment community and businesses in particular to be mindful of some of the risks to be found in the global economy, particularly as represented in the European Union and in the U.S. But there's another risk, and the Jobs and Prosperity Council speaks to this risk, and that's the risk associated with doing nothing. If we think that somehow we can find refuge and sanctuary in the status quo, we're making a big difference. We're making a big mistake. Whenever we stop to catch our breath, we're actually falling behind. We've built a great foundation on which to build, very competitive taxes, highly skilled and educated workforce. We're modernizing our infrastructure. We're reducing the regulatory burden. But now we've got to find a way to reach higher. I think that's a really important aspect of the conversation associated with, well, people are hanging on to the money. Well, you might think it's comfortable to hang on to money, but right now it's a mistake to think that the best thing for you to do is just hang on to it. You've got to reach a little bit higher. In government, all right, this year, we're going to continue to roll out full-day kindergarten at a time of austerity. Why are we doing that? Because we're investing in the future. So I'd say to business that maybe you want to curb your expenditures in some place or another, but you've got to find a way to invest in the future. You've got to reach a little bit. Buy that new technology. Buy that new piece of equipment. Provide some extra training to your employees. Invest in R&D. Find some way to support innovation in the workplace. All of that will help us better prepare for the future.
But do you think that it's almost cultural in terms of Canadians and I guess Ontarians too? If you look at, and you can look at almost any one of them, but I follow Roger Martin's because you've got to pick one and follow it. Every year his report basically shows the same innovation gap between Canada and the United States and productivity. Yes. Yeah. I for a while thought he was stopping doing the reports because they're so similar one after another, and he was just recycling them. Yeah. And it doesn't change. Yeah. So how's that going? But is that cultural or is it?
I think it's not so much an irreversible part of our DNA as Canadians, so much as it is the fact that we grew very comfortable riding that horse that did so well for us in a context of a low Canadian dollar and a strong U.S. partner. And I think we gotta work up the courage now to get off this horse and get on the other one. It's a little bit more demanding of us. There's no comfort to be found, and no comfort and security to be found ever again in an era of globalization, because there's always somebody somewhere else on the planet who's going to be working hard to develop a better widget or better service of some kind. But the fact of the matter is we've got a powerful foundation here on which to build. Are you telling me, Don, that somehow if we were to measure the creative capacity of Ontario's youth against the creative capacity of the Japanese or the Koreans or the Canadians or the Americans or the Germans, that somehow there'd be a measurable difference? I don't believe so. It's just a matter of creating those conditions that support that and celebrate it.
And I'm not suggesting it's just our province,
yes.
But there is a bit of you see it actually more in Alberta. If you want to have an energy company, you develop it to a certain size, and then you hope it gets taken over by somebody else, and it's usually not a Canadian company. So I'm just wondering if there's something about the scale of even though we're a big province, it's still a relatively small, even though rich country, and if there's just a mindset that, as you say, we have to now get off that horse and get on the other horse, but gee, this old horse is kind of poking along and it's not too bad anyway, and maybe it's just a mindset and we can't change it.
But there's something that is happening. And I remember watching a movie, Clinton campaigns, and this guy, the Raging Cajun, James Carville?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Interesting character. But at one point he said, somebody asked him to comment on the campaign, he said, I kind of like the texture. And I like the texture of that is tangible in Ontario today. The Conference Board of Canada came out with a new report just yesterday. They're saying that we need to take the next leap forward together, and we've got a lot of the fundamentals right. We've got the Jobs and Prosperity Council that's doing the same kind of work. The Ontario Chamber of Commerce came out with their Emerging Stronger report. There is this, in fact, a growing alignment. We need to be sensitive to that now. Some people think, well, nothing ever changes. Well, in fact, stuff does change. And right now there's a growing understanding that in order for us to succeed into the future, we can't keep doing what we've done in the past, and a recognition that we've built a really strong foundation. So we've all got to step it up at least a little bit. We've got to reach a little bit higher than we otherwise might be inclined to do, because the rest of the world is coming up behind us. So I think there is something that is happening, in fact, taking place.
And how do you see, just in terms of our province, but fitting into the global milieu, if I could use that, and this came up, I think Ken Loenza raised it this morning, if you can't sell into your own domestic market, it's very hard for companies then to compete internationally. And so you have this almost dichotomy where you're saying, well, there have to be opportunities for Ontario companies to sell into the Ontario market, but we want to export all around the world, and so we don't want any trade barriers to that. And there is, you see the Buy American in the United States is probably the best example. They're going to buy American while they sell to everybody else in the world.
Right.
And at some point, there's the WTO, and there's a lot of other rules that get in the way of that. But how do you see that, just for people in this room and people in Ontario, making, having some kind of a domestic market, which is the base for the international market?
Right. There was an expression they had in the 1960s, which you remember, learning to live with a bomb. Mm-hmm. Now, when I was very young, we actually had air raid sirens in Alta Vista in Ottawa, because people were concerned about the advent of nuclear bomb, and the Russians had the bomb. And suddenly we somehow grew more relaxed, and we learned to live with a bomb. We've got to learn to live with globalization. The churn to be found in the economy and in jobs is going to be much more pronounced than it has been in the past. We're going to have to actually find comfort in that. So what I say to young people is, I can't guarantee you a job for life, but I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll work as hard as I can with the private sector to create an economy that's always generating more jobs than we're losing. Right? That's the new world. That's our new reality. I think we have to be a bit more aggressive now in terms of embracing globalization and opening ourselves up to a bit more competition. Here's the choice that I have as a leader. I can say to Ontarians, woe is us. We can't compete with the best and the brightest in the world. We're going to throw up these artificial barriers. We're going to become insular. We'll do the very best that we can on our own, in our own little world. That's approach number one. Here's approach number two. Guess which one I prefer. we can compete with the best in the world and we can win. We'll make sure our schools are the strongest anywhere. We'll make sure our workforce is the strongest anywhere. We'll make sure we've got health care that keeps our people healthy. We'll invest in infrastructure. We'll support innovation. We'll have a partnership with the private sector that is second to none. Who's with me? Guess which one do you think I prefer? They say that to succeed in life, you need a sense of humor and a sense of perspective. And one of the privileges I have enjoyed is the opportunity to travel to China, India, Japan, Pakistan, parts of South America, the US, and Europe. I haven't met a single counterpart, a premier or governor, who doesn't want my job, my opportunities, and my challenges. So it's human nature for us to focus on work still to be done and challenges still to be overcome. But in the grand scheme of things, what we have here, what we bring to the table in the terms of the global economy is nothing short of extraordinary. It's a matter now of aligning ourselves. It's a matter of harnessing the power of what I call shared purpose. We're all going to build a stronger economy and shared responsibility. We're all going to understand what it is that we have to do in order to build that stronger economy. So if I'm a dad and I have a 3-year-old, you could probably help build a stronger economy by grab that child, sit her down on your lap, and read to her for 20 minutes at night. That's not only an expression of love and support for your child, but actually it does something to help us build a stronger economy. So there's a way that we can all play a role when it comes to helping build a stronger economy. Now, with the report we've got from the Conference Board, from the JPC, from the great work being done by the Ontario Chamber of Commerce, what I hope will emerge from this is a plan so that if I was 5 years from now to knock on 100 Ontario doors and ask a couple of questions, everybody would know the answer. The first question would be what's the plan to make Ontario stronger? And the second question would be, what's your role in making Ontario stronger? So we can't kind of sequester ourselves, withdraw into various sectors and geographic regions, and rural and urban, and say we're all just going to do our own thing here. We no longer enjoy that luxury. At a time of heightened competition, we need to embrace a plan together, and we need to put our collective shoulder behind that plan. We need to assume individual responsibility to prosecute that plan. That's a guarantee for success.
And is that, and I'm getting a little short on time, and I'm taking a lot of your time, and I appreciate you offering it. Is a code word for that industrial strategy? Are we going to have a strategy in Ontario that would be described as an industrial strategy? Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely, something that we can all get behind, something that is specific to Ontario. One of the great things about the economy, one of the things I've come to understand about the Ontario economy, Don, is not many Ontarians understand the Ontario economy. Yeah. But one of the great things about it is its sheer diversity. I was saying a moment ago, we've got the biggest mining sector in North America. We're in the top 3 when it comes to financial services, when it comes to digital media and film. We're the number 1 when it comes to auto. Brad could write off agri-food. We've got such a diverse sector which stands us in such good stead in times of different kinds of global economic challenges. Sometimes the price of this is up, and sometimes the price of that is down. But the underlying strength, of course, being our people and our innovative capacity. So it's a matter here. Folks know I grew up in a big family. And 12. If we pulled in separate directions, we accomplished nothing. But when we pulled together, we never felt like 12, we felt like 24. So when we were growing up, to supplement our income, me and my 5 brothers would shovel snow, cut grass, then we actually sold manure.
We're not going there.
Don't touch that.
We're not going there.
Don't touch that.
No, we're not going there.
Touch that. Finished that business a long time ago. We sold.
As long as it's not this January, that'd be just fine.
Yeah. Sold fruit and vegetables from a boat on a lake. My dad bought fixer-uppers. We moved in and did the fixing and upping. Built a summer camp, ran a summer camp.
Wow.
All that was part of the family enterprise, which we enjoyed, which made us develop an entrepreneurial outlook, and which we found to be very satisfying. So it's all about, when we pull together, when we align our strengths, when we buy into a common goal, nothing can stop us. Nothing.
Well, Premier, I've used up all the time that was allotted. But I think, I want to say personally, and I think probably I'm speaking for the room, you've done so much and are so engaged. Even now, it's hard to imagine that you don't want to continue on doing this. Can we look forward to seeing you having a kind of ongoing role in building Ontario one way or another? And have you decided what you're going to do next?
I have not at this point in time, Don, and I'll get myself a bit of breathing space. This is one of the great things about this job, and I've said it before, it'll be the best job I'll ever have. I've been lucky all my life. It started, I was born in Canada. Then I was born to parents who loved me, supported me, encouraged me, and inspired me with their work ethic. Then I married my high school sweetheart who, for some reason, known only to God above, still loves me. I have 4 kids with whom I am a great friend, and they keep me abreast of how the world is changing in their eyes. I've been lucky in politics. I've had an extraordinary cabinet, an incredible caucus who have supported me in everything that we have undertaken, so I feel very, very lucky. And you can't separate yourself from a passion. So I'm passionate about my province. I'm passionate about our shared future. And I love this notion of entrepreneurialism and what it is that we might be able to do to nurture that in young people. That gives us every reason to be hopeful for our future. So if I might, let me take this opportunity, Don, just to say to the folks, it's been an honor to serve you. I want to thank you for everything that you do to help us build what I've always called the greatest province in the best country in the world.
Well...